Hi, Rob Manville here from Australia. Just doing a quick presentation on my soft food preparation. I often have people say that they don't think it's safe to feed soft food. So this is a system that I've put together to give them the nutrition that I think they do need, especially when they're under the rigours of breeding. But also, as I said, it's very safe and the birds themselves are not going to get ill. So it's in a few parts, and that way you can watch each part together, or you can just do bit by bit. But it's about sort of soaking the seed, how I do that, how I prepare the soft food itself, and the green food that goes with that, and then how I present it to the birds. Okay, this is my seed soaking system. It comes in two parts. So this is how we do it to start with. So that's equal quantities of wheat, oats, feed oats, a little bit of sunflower and whatever. And to that we add, that's some alfalfa. That's rye seed, which is organic. That's red clover. And then we use some mung beans. So that goes in there, and that's the next thing we're going to do is soak it. Okay, so that's the seed we've got there. So what we're doing now is we're just running the water through it, and it cleans it so that it gets any of the dust out of it. And you'll notice that I'm collecting the stuff that runs through there, so we can put that on the plants. I come from a very dry part of the world, so we've learned over the years to make sure that we don't waste water. It's a precious commodity. Okay, so it's just starting to feel a bit lukewarm there now. So now what we do is we fill this up. And I only go to that level, you don't need to do much. And that, if you feel, it's about 28, 29 degrees. You don't want that too hot, otherwise it'll kill the seed. And if you do it too cool, of course, what will happen is the seed won't germinate. This is just a closer look at the seed sprout. It's got holes in the bottom of it, and that goes into this container here, which holds the liquid that we use for the soaking. And then it's got a lid with holes around the top of it as well that allows it to breathe, so it doesn't sweat and go mouldy. Now to the seed and the water, that's nice and warm. It's all stirred up. What I use is a little bit of water steriliser. So this one is a Hibitane base, which you could use anything that you wash baby bottles or whatever. Not overly strong, but not weak either. Now what we do is we leave that for anything from half an hour up to a couple of hours, depends on how busy you are. But you only need half an hour for it to actually start the process of germination. Leave that, as I said, for half an hour, probably an hour, that's all. And then we go to the next process. After the seed's been soaking for an hour or two, or half an hour, what I do is take it out of here, and leave it there. So I let it drain for probably half an hour before I actually go to the next point. So this is a bit better explanation. So this is where we take that out and let that drain. This is a small esky that I use just to sprout the seed, so it helps it germinate, and especially in the really, really cold weather. So the joy of this is what I'm using here is actually a heat pad, which they sell them for aquariums for amphibians to keep snakes and all that sort of stuff in. So it's just a warm, gentle heat pad. This is the little esky with the heat pad in the bottom of it. So we put that in there, put a lid on it to just slow down, keep the heat in it a bit and slow down evaporation. And then we'll leave that there overnight with the thing turned on. And most importantly is don't rinse your seed. This is a little bit of a recap on what we've just done. So the most important thing here is to try and keep the bacteria out of the seed. So by using the hibitane, as I said there, for soaking the seed, you stop the bacteria from being able to get a foothold. And it's very important not to rinse off that soaking liquid that you use. That leaving that little bit of hibitane there is the thing that starts all this. So the other thing with that too is, remember, just prepare enough for 1 or 2 days. You can go longer than that by putting it in the fridge. I do it for a couple of days, and then when I'm not in the breeding season and just want to give them a bit of stuff in the aviaries, I will do it for 3 or 4 days. So I just hold it in the fridge. It seems to hold it there. So that's not a bad way to go. But just prepare enough for what you need. Okay, so this is the soaked seed. This is its second day, but I've had it in the fridge to sort of arrest the germination a bit. What we've done is we've had that out at room temperature to dry the seed out a bit. We want it as dry as we can get it. That way we don't end up with wet nests. So the more moisture you've got in that, the worse it is. All we want to do is make sure that this seed is germinated or sprouted. You can see the little buttons there where the tips have come through. You can see it certainly on the bottom there on the sunflower seed. Okay, so this is the soaked seed that's as dry as we can possibly get it. So I put a bit of protein powder on it, which has got a few other bits and pieces in it. I'll discuss that later. And we also put some seaweed meal, that's kelp meal. Not much, just a little bit to stick it to the seed. And then we give it a good stir. Okay, so that's the first step. And then what we'll do is we'll put some other bits and pieces in it. Okay, so our next step is to put some beetroot in there. So I just grate it into the bowl. As much or as little as you want, you'll work it out with your birds. And a bit of grated carrot. And then we put some swede. Now this is swede, it's got turnip, so swede's a lot sweeter. And the birds love it, as it turns out. So that's just a little bit that we put in there. This is what I would call me sort of soaked seed, soft seed mix. And we'll go from there and we'll have a look at what we do next. Okay, so I'll just give that a stir, mix it all in before we... Got 2 more things we're going to put into that. And again, it's just, as I said, just they can have as little or as much as they like. And then I'll do this separately to the greens, which I'll show you the greens next. Okay, so this is the final part of fixing up this. So I've mixed in the beetroot, the carrot, and the swede. So what I've put in there is just like a brewer's yeast extract, and this is just a real good egg and biscuit. Not a lot of it. Again, we're trying to keep this pretty dry. And I just mix that all together. And then I'll probably leave that for 5 or 10 minutes to stick to the seed. And remember, the seed's got to be as dry as you can get it after soaking. Otherwise you end up with wet nests. So there you go. That's ready to serve. Okay, so recapping a few things there about the preparation of the soft food. I don't think you need to stick to what I've done. You can change. You might put grated other stuff in there. You may not put grated stuff in there. So I like what I've put there. It's taken a long time to get there. The birds do like it, and I think that's part of the whole thing as well. The birds love something, they'll get stuck into it. And as I said, I feed it later on in the day. I don't feed it throughout the day. I've got friends that feed twice a day, but I don't have the time to do that. As far as the additives go, I think you can use anything that you're buying yourself. Like if you've got vitamin powders or whatever. I mean, these powders that I'm using are just ones that I would expect to find from a vet produce store that you would put on puppies' food and things like that. So it's just added vitamins and that to help with the bone structure and give them everything that they can. And remember, this is just stuck to the seed. It's not in the water. I like leaving the water, as I've said before in other videos, without anything in it. Alright, now we're going to do up some stuff in the blender. And this is only to just break it up a bit so that it can be fed to all the breeding cages. So that's just normal cabbage. No big deal. This is kale. So it's not very scientific, just whatever you need for your birds. I'm at the moment on most cabinets I've had for a long time, which I've got 36 breeding cabinets going now. I usually only use 24. We had a pretty good breeding season last year, and I'm really ashamed not to use some of the better birds that are there. Alright, so what we do is we just pulse this. So don't go mad, we don't want to turn it into a mush. That's looking pretty good. Alright, so you can see with that we've got quite it's quite lumpy. The object is not to turn it into a mush. As I said, we're going to mix it with some silver beet, which I chop that up by hand. Okay, so that's the finished stuff out of the blender. Or the processor, if you want to call it that, food processor. So this is what I'm going to put into the green side of it today. So at the back there we've got the cabbage and the kale. So down the bottom here we've got some amaranthus. We've got parsley. This is wild oregano. I'm struggling to think of the name of that. I'll have to come back to it, which I've got it growing everywhere. So that's our spinach or silver beet, which I'm going to trim the leaves off that, and I'll show you what I do there, and then I'll chop all that up and it'll all get mixed into that. So I sometimes use rocket. Okay, so we've got cress, that's what it's called. It's called cress, this stuff. This is American, you can get a couple of different ones. It's a dry growing one, you get watercress as well, but it's really peppery. But I grow a lot of it, and as I said, it only comes on in season, so it's wild sown all over the place here. But it's really, really spicy and peppery, and the birds love it. So what we're going to do is we will go back and cut all this up, and away we go. I'll do a bit of this because what I do is I just take the leaves off like such. I'm not going to do all of it, we'll just cut to something else in a sec. So I just pull this out of the garden fresh. And like they're all using oregano for all sorts of things. And then I'm not a great believer in sticking anything in the water. I think you need to get the birds to drink as much water as you can. To save dehydration, and I think for just their good well-being. I mean, we should drink a lot of water ourselves too, which the doctors tell us that. It's the same with the birds. So let them just pick what they want to eat, not what you want to shove down their throat. So if you give them plenty of different stuff, some birds eat it, some don't. The majority of the birds will eat this though. They'll eat it with it in the flights or in the breeding cages. So I just chop that up so we won't go through the whole thing. We'll chop up a bit of parsley. Again out of the garden. It's been raining here today, so you can see that it's all nice and wet. But I don't think the birds care. Then I've got this growing everywhere too, so it's amaranthus. So if you pull it off the stem like that, it just crumbles up. So everything loves these. This is great. I mean, it's full of vitamins. I said it's a wild growing thing here. I've got thousands of plants that come up every year. And in reality, you probably don't have to chop that up, but just for the sake of this, I'll just show you what I would do if I wanted to chop it up a bit to about that level. Okay, so with the spinach, of silver beet, I cut the main stem out like that. I know this is a bit time consuming, but it's all about, you know, keeping the budgies in good health. And we have a look at that straight out of the garden. Beautiful young leaves. I mean, the buggers are spoilt getting that. I should be eating the bloody stuff myself tonight with a big steak or something. And a dozen bottles of beer maybe. So now these stems I pull out, what I'm going to do is I'll chop those up later, but also put those in the baby flights just with clothes pegs. And so that gives them something to chew and gives them anyway, I'll show you how I chop up the spinach. I don't put this in a blender because this has got a lot of moisture in it. You can see it's probably a little bit more silver beet or spinach or whatever you call it in your part of the world. But the object, again, big pieces, that's it. So that goes in there. Now you may or may not be able to see this, but what I do is I cut these are off the bottom of the stems that I've kept away from that I cut the leaves away from. So I won't fully involve it. Then what I do is so they're match fix if you like. This, if you're looking for a technical term, this is a fine dice, which from, I think it's French, is called a brunoise. Alright, so that also goes into this mix here. And I guess you could do it another way if you wanted to. You could cut the whole thing up on the stalks. Okay, so everything's in it now, so all I do now is turn it all over and mix it all together so that we've got everything there. So whenever you give some to the birds, I'll admit a bit of it. Like we've got a fair bit there, but as I said, we've got 36 cabinets. I'm not holding many birds in flights at the moment. Probably only got about, I don't know, 25, 30 spare birds that are not paired up. So that's it. So we feed that with the seed mix that we've done, and each cage gets a little bit of that. Okay, so these are the shards, which are the centre or the cores, if you like, of this silver beet leaves. That's the core or the guts out of the kale. So I use those, just hook them on a peg, put them into the cages so the birds have got something to eat and play with. I mean, the babies get stuck right into it, which I'll show you how I do that. Okay, here's one of the sort of a bit older, the baby flight, but it works. It's the same. To see the pigs there, and I'll predict that the birds will get stuck into it pretty well straight away. I'll just put that in there. There you go, as predicted. So that's not something that they get a stack of. I just do that every evening. So I feed the soft food before dark. I don't like serving it through the day to them. I like the birds to feed as much dry seed as they can through the day. And then the soft food that I give them is a top up. So it gives them something to top the chicks up if necessary, but most important, it also gives like a lot of nutritional seed to the older ones, so that the parents that are feeding their babies, so that way they're not going to sleep on empty stomachs either. So it's so much better. As I said, there's a lot of things in getting this right, but once you work it doesn't take long. And I have everything at hand, as I said, so it doesn't take me very long at all to prepare this. So maximum maybe 15 minutes from start to finish with the whole lot of it. Like obviously you've got to soak the seed, which we'll do that in a little. You would have seen that from the early start of this video. So this is for a bird that hasn't had babies yet. Hopefully they've got full eggs, but that's where I'm up to, so they wouldn't get too much. I'll give them just a bit of that, and then I'll give them a little bit of that. So they get a bit of the seed and they get a little bit of the green feed. Okay, now this is for a bird that's got half a dozen, or not half a dozen, I think she's got 5 babies in the nest. So I really pile it up for them because they need all the food they can get. Budgerigars in here, after all, being one of the most successful pairs last year, they just wolf the stuff down. They fed a lot of babies too. They've currently got 4 in the nest, and a couple frosted out. So I don't feed it to them early in the day. I feed it the night when I'm going around the birds. That way they've got a chance to not only top the babies up, but give themselves a great food. And the other stuff is it doesn't go stale overnight. If they eat it in the morning, it's not as though it's gone off. Recapping on a couple of the things there with regards to feeding the birds, you'll note that I use different combinations of how much soft food or soaked seed I use to the green feed. It just depends on the pair. So if they're not eating something, I don't give it to them. And I think it's very important that at the end of the season, you keep up the soft food and that to the babies, because you need them to grow as quick as they possibly can, and they'll eat the stuff, and which is good. And then when they themselves go into the breeding cage, they've already got a taste for the soft food. So as I said, I don't give it every day, but that's every day while they're in the aviaries. I just every couple of weeks I might go for a couple of days to give them the nutrition that they need. But other than that, I mean, you'll work it out. I don't think you need to be giving them stacks and stacks of it all the time. You've got to watch the weight of the birds as well. And I think another important thing is if you feed your birds well while they're breeding, when you end the breeding season, the birds come out of it in pretty good condition. Whereas I know people that lose a lot of hens, and I get a lot of people trying to buy hens off me, and I would suggest it's probably because their hens are knackered. By the end of the season, they you want them to go for 2 or 3 years if you can get them, or more. I take more rounds than I probably should, but I think I can get away with that simply because they are being fed better than most birds. Like if you've just got them on a basic diet, I think the 2 rounds that they've been talking about, for years and years and years, as in 100 years, I think that's probably correct. So if you've got, if you take 2 rounds out of them, you've taken a hell of a lot out of the birds. And remember the other thing too was, this was told to me a long time ago, once that egg's been laid, there's absolutely nothing you can do to assist that bird hatch out of the egg. So if you're not putting it into your hens, as in the nutrition into your hens, they can't put it into the eggs. So if you've got hatchability problems, and you've got problems where things can't get out of the eggs, or a lot of addled eggs, or dying in the shell, I think that could also be linked back to the poor nutrition that you've given your hens. So your hens, you've got to treat them like gold, because they are gold. That's the future of your stud. So make sure you keep your nutrition up to your hens is important. Well, that's the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. The objective, of course, is to safely feed some soft food to your birds, and everything we've sort of done there is to try and inhibit the growth of bacteria, so that you don't make your birds sick with what you're doing. If you want big nests of birds and you want your birds to come out of the breeding season healthy and ready for the next season, I think feeding them a very, very good diet, and this is part of it. So the birds will survive without any of this additional stuff, but as I said, I think it's good to bring your birds out of the breeding season with in as good a condition as you can. And of course the other thing is I continue to feed my soft food throughout the whole year, and especially to the babies. So the babies, as they go through their growth spurts, I think that's it's good to give them this additional nutrition. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. Like it and share it. As with all the other videos I do, it's about information, trying to pass on some information to people that normally don't get a chance to get out and do other aviaries. So anyway, have a nice day. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.